Painting a misty landscape. Hello, I'm Caroline, and today we are painting a small misty landscape, and you can use this in a bigger scale if you want to, so come along and let's paint. Whoops. Activate your colors by spraying them. Have some clean water and some clean tissue paper. I'm having 3 brushes. This is to wet the paper. This is for some bigger trees and bigger things. And this one is for the details. This is a Dollaroni Graduate Rigger brush number 3. This is just a plain flat brush, 1 inch. And this is a number 8 round of a Swedish brand. Grab yourself a coffee or a tea or something and watch while I paint, or join in and paint with me. I'm going to start by wetting the background. And my brush wasn't clean, but that's okay because we're gonna do a color in the sky anyway. And the paper does not need to be extremely wet. Just moisten the paper until you get a even sheen. I am taking this Sodalite Genuine in a very diluted form, as you can see on the palette here. And I'm planning on doing the sky with this one. So just take the color. And I'm gonna go a little bit lighter downwards. Like this. Let the sky sit for a moment so it's not soaking wet, but it needs to be moist for this to work. The trees in the distance are going to be mostly the Sodalite Genuine, but a little bit of this green color. I don't know how to pronounce this. Zoisite. Genuine. I'm mixing the two up. It's more of a grayish color. I'm gonna up the consistency a little bit, so I have more than one possibility. Something like that. And if it's too dark, I will lighten it up with water, of course. Maybe a little bit more green. This is for the distant trees, but my paper is still too wet, so I'm gonna wait a little bit. Okay, let's paint some background trees. And I want the paint to spread a little bit upwards to get this misty, hazy look I'm after. I'm gonna raise that side a little bit. And I'm gonna continue downwards like this with the paint. because the mist isn't white, it's tainted. Too dark. And this is for the most furthest foggy trees. And remember that watercolor fades a lot when it dries, and the wetter paint, the more it will fade. So this won't be dark at all once it's dry. And the closer we are getting to the base of the paper, the more color we can put on instead of water. Everything has to do with how much water and how much paint. And timing of the paper is really important too. If it's too wet, it would just flow out like you see here. And if it's too dry, it will stay in place. So it can be a little bit tricky if you're new to watercolor, but you will learn, I promise. And you can add some darker spots to some of the trees if you want to, a little bit, to get variation. Variation is good. And that was too wet paint. Did you see how it spread out? But it's not an issue. But we can put more pigment on the brush when it's too wet. Okay, now I will leave this part to dry a little bit completely, and we will continue. To speed up the drying time, I have this heating tool. It's a craft heating tool. You can use a hair dryer if you want to. Just be careful not to go too close to the painting because it will all get too hot. So keep your distance. Okay, so when it's dried, you need to re-wet a part, or moist, not wet, to get this soft lower edge on your trees that we are gonna put down on the paper. So get a sheen on your paper, and then we can do some more trees. I'm gonna do one that is bigger than this. I'm gonna change between these brushes. Oops. And this part you can for sure fill with a lot. I'm trying to be a little bit quick so that this video isn't too long and slow. So if I'm painting this on my own, I can take my time a little bit more at least. But I try not to fiddle too much when I paint. And you just fill up with trees like this, where they go into each other. And I'm gonna take my clean damp brush and do like this to get some coloring, but not too much. For this misty look, we are making the lower part of the trees disappear into the mist. And you can do as much or as few trees as you like. And if you at some part think it's too fast for you, pause the video, paint, and go back to where you were and continue. And in some parts you can add more of the lower part. To get the mist swooping up into the tree. So no hard edges in this part, just upwards. And let's continue over here. I'm gonna take my bigger brush. You can start at the lower part if you want to. Oops. And put down some color first. And then use the smaller brush to put in the trees itself. And I go light the first times to get, and then the lighter brown, the light, and then I can fill in with darker colors afterwards if I feel it's missing. And my normal stroke when I paint, I need to turn the paper more. So I'm trying to paint straight for you to be able to see it good. But it's hard for me because I'm not used to painting in like this. And try to get variation in your trees, not make the same tree every time, so it seems more natural. And if you want trees a little bit behind, you make them lighter. So you can vary the intensity of your colors in the same kind of tree line also. And you can put darker trees in front of the light ones. It just needs to be darker than what you have behind already. I'm going to show you what I mean with the lighter color first, like this. And then some more pigment over it. And as long as this is wet still, you can put more pigments down. But once it starts to dry, like over here, it won't be nice. You will get this cauliflower effect. And if you want that, that's okay. But when it starts to dry too much, you need to leave it alone and let it dry completely. And if you want, you can let it dry and go do paint some other things or do something else. Or you can use a heating tool of some sort. Too dark. And as you can see, I'm overlapping the trees. I did the trees in the background. And now I'm putting on some more trees over top. And it's to get a sense of depth. Like that. And now I'm going to drag a little bit with just a half dry brush. I'm dragging upwards like this. I like that effect. And I'm gonna dry it. You probably wonder by now what the special announcement is. It's that you can win this painting done by me, and I'm gonna sign it, of course. And I will send it to the winner without them having to pay the postage or anything. You just need to be a subscriber to my channel and make a comment in the comment section that you want to win it. So I will do a raffle, and I will write in the comment section of this video the winner's name. So you need to look out for it. Okay, so that's drying out. I'm gonna continue downwards, damping the paper again. And this you can do however much you want in segments like this. And if you feel you got this down, just skip to the next segment that you need help with. Okay, so, and as the further down I come, the more pigment I use instead of water, and I'm using more and more of the green color in the mix of the two. But not totally green just yet, and maybe not at all, because I need them to be dark, and the green color isn't as dark as the Sodalite color. So I'm gonna go over here. I can use my bigger brush. I need to remember to change the brush. And I'm gonna do like this again. And you can decide where you want it, and that's a decision of composition for you. I'm just showing you one way. And there are always many ways to do the same thing. And as you can see now, I'm putting on darker color right away. Not as dark as the darkest, but more pigment. Oops. Here. And I'm going to take it all the way here, I think. I have an idea. Let's try. And for you who don't know me or don't know where I am in my studio, and the neighbors here are some other women entrepreneurs. They have a beauty salon and they are laughing. That's why I laughed too, because I think it's really nice to hear how fun they have while doing treatments and stuff. And sometimes there's drumming in the lower, beneath my studio. There is another woman and her husband, and they are painting and making drums for, I don't know if you know what it is. I don't know what it's called in English, but when you do a meditation and you use drums, like these ancient round drums. So sometimes when I sit here, it's quite noisy, but lively. I like it. But just when I'm filming, well, the drums isn't that great, of course, but otherwise it doesn't matter that much. So as you see, I thought it needed something more over here, so I just put down something more, and now I'm gonna put a little bit here. And when this dries up again, I can refine stuff and change things I don't like. And they say in watercolor you can't change mistakes, but you actually can to some point, some degree. Not everything, of course. And trees looks different depending on in what part of the world you are. So check out the trees you want to paint and how they are formed, and well, to help you decide what kind of shape your trees should have and how they are going to look. I'm gonna soften this part a little bit. I think it's too harsh. And it started to dry up, so I needed to be a little bit quick when I saw this. Like this. And this part has dried on me, so I need to dampen it a bit. And in the end, I plan on doing some bigger trees overlapping some of what I already painted. I'm mixing up some more color. I'm putting a little bit more green into it. I'm just drying up some of the excessive moisture. I don't want it to run beneath the tape, but if you do it, it does not matter that much. But if you want a clean line, you need to be more careful. Okay, I don't know if it's visible in the video, but I can see the pigments are separating and I can see more of the green, and I like that. Okay, so let's make a tree here. And the closer you are getting, the bigger the trees should get, also because they are closer to the viewer. But I'm not gonna go crazy big with this one. And if you wanted to, you could do different trees, not all the same kind of trees. But I'm going with spruce trees, fern, what do you call it? Not fern. Well, evergreen at least. It's hard when I'm not English speaking normally. So I hope you can see past it. And I'm dropping in some darker, more pigmented to get some variation. And sorry, but I need to do this to be able to get my stroke the way I want it. Yes, there we go. And as you can see, I'm pushing down on more of the brush to get broader strokes and different kind of strokes. Then I'm adding some twigs, or what do you call it, some like this. I'm running out of paint. Need to mix more. And why I do it like this, mixing more and more and not mixing everything at once, is because I want different amounts of the pigment, the blue pigment and the green pigment from the start. So that's why I'm not mixing it all at once. And I want them overlapping a little bit. Oh, wobbly tree. Maybe I can fix it a little bit so it doesn't show as much. And I'm filling in some parts. I want a little bit of the ground to be happening with something, even though not everything needs to be trees. And now for the lower part, I am thinking about, if you can see, I want this back rows to peek through and not everything to have the same height. So here I have a tree. That's why I didn't bring that one up, because I wanted this part to be visible. So I'm thinking of putting a bigger tree here, not in the middle, at least not if I'm only doing one or two. I need to think about where to place them. So not straight in the middle and not one on each side. I don't want it to be too similar. It needs to be off a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe here. And I'm going to bring it up some, and probably not to make it everything go away. I need to make the tree a little bit more, have less branches. These are fuller. So maybe I'm doing one that's a bit of a stem and upwards more of the greenery. So let's see. And I'm going to have it more green but really dark. And it can be a little bit intimidating or scary to put a big tree here. It could go wrong, but that's okay too. You learned something and you can make a new painting. So maybe at this, like that. And I'm gonna start at the top. And I'm going to make a little bit of a dark corner here, disappearing in underneath the paper. And do some tips of some trees, I think. And this is of course optional. I'm just wanting something over here. And now we are almost done. And of course you could make this a snowy scene if you wanted to. It's just to add some snow on the trees, or just the first snow without snow on the trees yet. Just use maybe a little bit of white ink or white gouache and splatter it on if you would prefer that. I'm not going to do that now, but you could. And if you noticed, when I turn, I think it's much easier to get a special kind of tree when I'm sitting like this, and I have the camera here, so yeah, I can't, what do you call it? The angle of my hand gets a bit strange, so it's harder for me to paint like I normally would, but that's okay too. In this way I get different kinds of trees, and I like that because you need to have variation. Okay, something like that. Thank you if you made it this far. And one last tip is to leave your painting be for a couple of hours or a day. Come back to it and look if there's something you want to add or darken or like that, fix something. You can do that when you've walked away for a bit of time, because it's easier to see the thing that you might want to change. Okay, thank you for being with me so far, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and hit the notification so you get notified when I publish something new. There.